Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a little challenge here. I'm going to be talking about what I think my makeup collection would be if I wasn't a YouTuber. So the reason I say this is a challenge is because it was really hard to prepare for this video. It took me a while to narrow down what I really think I would still have in my collection if I wasn't doing YouTube. And I've seen people do this video a couple of ways. Some people were forcing themselves to have to choose only one product per category, and then I saw other people who had maybe like 2 or 3 things per category. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I think for all of the categories I have at least 2 items that I think I would still have in my collection, because even if I wasn't doing YouTube, I don't think it's realistic for me to only have like one foundation, one eyeshadow palette, one highlighter. I just think I would still have a few things here and there. So I'm not going to be going through like every single product that I think I would still own, but I think I'm going to show y'all what I think my staple products would be even if I wasn't a YouTuber. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so I tried my best to think about like how I came across all of these products like in my makeup journey. I'm taking into account certain things that I know I was using way before I started YouTube and things that I'm still using now. And I'm also taking into account the fact that even if I had never started my own channel, I probably would have been watching YouTube videos all this time. So I think I have a lot of like YouTube made me buy it type of products in my collection. So just keep that in mind as we are going through. So I'm going to start off with foundation. Now, if you're not familiar with my channel, then just so you'll know, I don't wear primer consistently, so I'm not going to include primer in this video because I really feel like if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I don't think that I would be using primer hardly ever. The reason I do use it here and there is just for the sake of being able to test out certain primers, test them out with foundations for the sake of being able to tell you like if I think a primer is really good or if I think maybe a certain foundation works better with a primer. But I don't think that I would ever use it if it weren't for me doing YouTube videos. So for that reason, I'm going to go right into foundation. So I have 4 foundations that I think I would still own, but I don't think I would necessarily wear all of these on a regular basis. But let me just go through all of them first. So we have Estee Lauder Double Wear, which is a throwback for real. I used to love this stuff, but I'll get into that in a minute. I also have Too Faced Born This Way, the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation, and also the Fenty Hydrating foundation. Back when I first started wearing makeup for a very long time, all I knew was MAC. I wore MAC everything, and back then I was kind of like sticking to what I know. When I finally started to like venture out and I discovered like this whole new world in makeup, and I discovered that there were so many options in makeup, I feel like after I stopped wearing MAC, the first foundation that I just really fell in love with was Estee Lauder Double Wear. I used to wear this stuff every single day for like a couple of years. Like I made sure that I never ran out of it, and I had it on my face every single day. I used to love it, and I think for that reason alone I would still own it to this day. But I don't think it's necessarily a foundation that I would still be using every single day. But you know how makeup lovers, we have nostalgic makeup in our collection. We have stuff that maybe we haven't used it in a very long time, but for whatever reason we're not going to part with it. I don't think I would ever part with this Double Wear foundation, but I feel like I would still want to have it in my collection. Now, even though I love that Double Wear foundation, I do feel like over time, just from trying out different products, I would have maybe looked for a drugstore alternative to it, because one of the things that I learned after I stopped wearing MAC, I actually went from wearing MAC foundation to a Loreal foundation for a little while, and that's when I learned that just because drugstore makeup is cheaper in price, it's not necessarily cheaper in quality. So I feel like I would have eventually started looking for a drugstore dupe for Double Wear, and I feel like that's how I would have come across the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation. Now, I don't think this is like a dead-on dupe for Double Wear, but I do think it's a pretty close match, and this foundation is a better shade match for me. So this one is in the shade Mahogany, and with the Double Wear foundation, this This one is in the shade 6W1 Sandalwood, and this one is actually a little dark for me. I feel like since the last time I've worn this, I think Double Wear has added more shades, so they probably have a shade that's better for me now. But back then, like, that was the closest one. And I remember, like, this is 6W1, so it's a warm tone foundation, but I feel like Double Wear in general, they kind of run sort of red. So I feel like this one was the least red out of all of the ones that I tried. But like I said, this one is a lot cheaper. I think Double Wear costs somewhere around $40. This one costs $15, and it's a better shade match for me. So that's the reason I don't think I would have been wearing Double Wear all this time, because I think when I stumbled across this, I would have probably switched the Double Wear out for this NYX foundation. Now moving on to the Too Faced foundation, this is one that I started wearing before I started my YouTube channel, so that's why I think I would still have it, because I remember when I first started wearing it, I loved it, and I loved the finish of it. Like, this is the first foundation that I wore that didn't have like a really matte finish, I guess. This used to be like my everyday like ride or die foundation, and it just recently, and when I say just recently, maybe like 2 months ago, got put to the back burner for another foundation. But I think that's why I would still have this one, just because I've been using it for so long. I'm very familiar with it. It works on my skin, and I've been using it for so long. However, like I said, very recently, I decided to try the Fenty Hydrating foundation. So this foundation came out maybe like a year ago, and then I just decided to try it out like a couple of months ago, and this is the foundation that has replaced my Too Faced foundation. So again, even though I think I would still have the Too Faced foundation, I don't think that I would be wearing it all like that. So out of the 4 foundations that I just talked about, I think these 2 would be my most worn, and this one would definitely be number 1. Like, I've been wearing this like every day since I bought it. But yeah, those are definitely the foundations that I think I would still have even if I wasn't doing YouTube. So moving on to a couple of concealers, I think I would still have my Too Faced Born This Way concealer in my collection, and I bought this off of the strength of the foundation. I love the foundation so much that I was very excited when this one came out. This is still my everyday concealer. Pretty much every single time I'm doing my makeup, I'm using this concealer, so I know for sure that I would still have this. So another one that I think I would have purchased and I still would have kept and used from time to time is the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear More Than Concealer. So I have to mix 2 of these shades together. Usually when it comes to complexion products, I don't really care to mix 2 colors together, because I feel like I have other options out there where I don't have to mix. But this concealer is so good that I don't mind buying 2, having to mix them. The same thing with this Fenty foundation. I started off with the soft matte foundation, and I had to mix those 2 colors together, so I wear the same 2 colors in the hydrating one. But again, with that foundation and with this concealer, I think that they're so good, I don't mind buying 2 to have to mix them up. This concealer, I think I would have tried it, because back in the day I used to wear, let me see if I can find it. Back in the day I used to wear this foundation a lot. So I stopped wearing it. I'll dabble in that like every once in a blue moon, but I basically don't wear that foundation anymore. But I used to really like it. And what I like about L'Oreal's complexion products, for a lot of their complexion products, they have a really wide range of shades. I think that I would have ended up trying out this concealer because I like this foundation so much. So you know how you have like one product from a brand, you really like it, and then you'll say to yourself, oh, let me try this because I really like their foundation, so let me try their setting powder. I think that's what would have attracted me to this concealer. And like I said, this is a really good concealer, so I think that this is one that I would still own and one that I would still use from time to time. Okay, so those are my foundations and my concealers, and now let's move on to setting powder. I bought both of these powders before I started my YouTube channel, and I feel like I would probably go back and forth between the two of them now, even though I haven't really used either one of them in a while. But still, I feel like I would still be using both of them if it weren't for me trying out other things for my YouTube channel. So the first one is the Ben Nye Luxury Powder. This one is in the shade Rose Petal, and I'll show you the back of the packaging just so that you can see the color of it. I think I got this off of Amazon, and I was so happy when I found it because it's a pink powder. And I love pink toned or beige toned powders. I know a lot of powders are like yellow and banana colored, but because I have like a pink undertone, a pink powder just works best for me. So I was so happy when I came across this. I didn't really use this a whole lot, but I did used to use it quite a bit. It's a nice, very finely milled, like a silky feeling powder. So this is the first one that I do think I still would have just stuck with if I hadn't ventured on to other things. And the other one is the MAC PatrickStarrr powder. I feel like this came out like right before I started my YouTube channel, I think. But I know that I was using this before I started YouTube. So this is another one. Let me see if I can open this because I don't think you can really see the color of it through the packaging. Okay, I poured out just a little bit, so I'm hoping y'all can like make out the color. The lid of it is kind of stained just from having powder in there sometimes. But this is another like pinkish tone powder, and this powder is really, really good. Like, I feel like I need to leave this out and revisit it because I don't even remember the last time I used this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this out and use it the next time I do my makeup because I used to love this powder. But I feel like, again, the reason I don't use these now is simply because I've moved on to other things. I bought other things to maybe review on my channel. I was introduced to some other things through my BoxyCharm subscription, and I think that's really the main reason I haven't really touched these. But I think, again, if it weren't for me being on YouTube, I feel like setting powder is one of those things that I wouldn't really have like tested the waters with too much. I feel like I would have just stuck with these because they're like pink toned and I would have called it a day. So these are the two powders that I think I would still have in my collection. Okay, I have 4 eyeshadow palettes that I want to talk about. So the first one is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. Let me show y'all what that looks like in case you're not familiar. Then I have the MAC Prissy Princess palette. If you've been with my channel for a while, then you'll know that I tried to do a project pan with this. But this is the Prissy Princess palette. Then we have the Bare Minerals Bare Sensuals palette. That's that one. And lastly, we have the ABH Jackie Aina palette. So I feel like I would definitely have these 4 in my collection. The Too Faced palette is the only one that I was wearing before I started YouTube, and this is my everyday go-to ride or die palette. I don't use it very much these days just because, again, I just have so many other things that I'm trying out for the sake of my channel sometimes, and also just for the sake of trying other things out. But this is the one that I always go back to. This is the palette out of all of the palettes that I own. This is definitely the one that I feel most comfortable with. When this palette came out, the Prissy Princess one, let me show y'all the color scheme again. So I know to a lot of people this color scheme may seem kind of like dead and just like dull. But these are the types of colors that I like, and that's why I bought this palette. To me, it looked really simple. It looked like an everyday palette. It really was my everyday palette for a while. Like I said, I tried to do a project pan with this because I was using it so much that I really thought that I could pan at least a couple of shades in here. That didn't work out, but I really like how simple and how cool tone this is. So I feel like even if I had never started YouTube, I would have been attracted to this when I saw it. With this Bare Minerals palette, again, you can see how it's a very cool tone palette, and these are the types of colors that I love. I just love like pinks and purples and like those. I feel like other people might consider them to be like quote unquote like dull looking colors, but these are just the colors that I like. This palette is just right up my alley. That's why I think I definitely still would have gotten this one. And then with the Jackie Aina palette, I feel like this would have been one of those YouTube maybe buy it type of products. I am a big fan of the Jackie Aina channel. I think she's a good, not only a good content creator, but also a good makeup educator. So I feel like for that alone, I definitely would have bought her palette. For me, this would have been the palette that would have been my way of experimenting with different colors, like trying out more bold colors, more bold looks, I think, because this is kind of like, if I had bought this without having a YouTube channel, I feel like this might have been like one of my first palettes that had like actual color in it. So yeah, those are the 4 palettes that I think I would own. Now mind you, I buy a good amount of eyeshadow palettes. I don't have like hundreds of palettes, but I do have a lot more. So I feel like even if I had never started YouTube, I feel like I would have had more than just these 4 palettes, but I feel like I definitely at the very least would have had these 4. So next let's talk about some bronzers. Now when I first started makeup, like before I started YouTube, and I feel like even after I was on YouTube, for a while I was contouring my face, and then I started experimenting with bronzing, and I love bronzing a lot more than contouring. And I actually said this in a pretty recent video. I feel like it might have been my very last video, but this Maybelline Fit Me powder, this one is in the color 40 Dark, and actually let me show you the side of it so you guys can kind of see the color of the powder. This powder I bought because it looked like something that I could bronze with. It looked like a warm, like reddish tone powder. It's supposed to be a finishing powder, but I used to use it as a bronzer all the time. And when I first started doing that, I got hooked on it. So I feel like I would definitely still have this in my collection. And I think that I would still have the Fenty Stalk'r bronzer in Coco Naughty. I just bought this like not too long ago, but I feel like there's a lot of Fenty stuff in my collection that I would still have because Fenty is just so popular. It's just so hyped up. I'm taking into account the fact that I would probably still be watching YouTube videos, so I feel like I would have been up on Fenty launches just through watching YouTube, so I feel like eventually I would have tried this anyway. So these are the 2 bronzers that I think I would definitely have. Now I have a lot more bronzers that I own, and I'm sure y'all already know how I feel about that new Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, but if I had never started YouTube, I don't know if I would have bought that Charlotte Tilbury bronzer or some other ones that I have. I feel like bronzing, even though I love bronzing, I feel like that might have been one of those areas in my makeup routine where I would have just kind of like stuck with what I knew, because when I first got introduced to bronzing, it was so hard for me to find products because everything seemed like it was always running like yellow or golden, and it was always so hard to find like reddish tone bronzers. I feel like there's a lot more out now, so maybe I would have experimented with more, but I don't know. My gut is telling me that I would have just stuck to maybe like 2 or 3 bronzers and I just would have called it a day. So I feel like I definitely would have had these 2 in my collection. Again, with that Charlotte Tilbury bronzer being $55, part of me bought it for the sake of being able to review it on my channel, but I don't know if I would have bought it if I never had a YouTube channel, so I'm not going to include that in this one. I think I'm just going to stick with the Maybelline and the Fenty bronzer. Actually, I have to take that back. I had to stop my camera so I could get another bronzer. I forgot about this one. This is the Too Faced Sun Bunny bronzer. So going back to what I said about like never being able to find like cool tone bronzers, this is actually like a pink tone bronzer. This one over here, this is the one that I used to use a lot. I can't really use this one, but this one over here, I can use it, and it's like a really, really subtle bronzer on me, which is how I like for my bronzers to look. I feel like I probably still would have bought this again off of the strength of the foundation and the concealer that I love so much, because again, when you have certain products from a brand that you really like, it kind of influences you to try other products from that brand. So maybe I would have bought this one too, but I feel like this one and the other 2, I probably would have stopped there. Okay, I have 3 blushes that I want to share with you. So the first one is the Milani Baked Blush. Let me show you the packaging. This one is in the shade Luminoso. So I bought this one before I started YouTube, but before I started my own channel, I remember Jackie Aina on her channel, she used to go off about this blush all the time. She didn't wear this shade. I don't remember what shade she was wearing, but I remember buying this blush off of her recommendation. So I feel like I would still have this, and I probably would still use it from time to time. It's been a long time since I used this one, but I feel like I would go back to it here and there. And then we also have the e.l.f. blush palette. This is the one for dark skin. So they have this one, and then they have another one for like, I think it's light to medium skin. So I got this because it's cheap. It costs like $6, maybe $8, and you get 4 different options here. So this blush here is the one that I use most often. And then, yeah, and then this is the one that I'll use a lot but then sometimes I like to mix these two shades together. When it comes to like what I call like I guess accent makeup, like your highlighters and your blushes, I like to have palettes because I feel like it's good for you to be able to see a few options in front of you, especially when you're doing your makeup. You might want to look and see like, you know, what blush color do I think would complement my eye look the best. So that's another reason that I got this, because it's a palette. You're getting 4 options, and like I said, it's only like $6 or $8, and this is a really good palette. Like, this is another one that I haven't used in a long time, but it's a really good palette, so I feel like I would still use this from time to time. And then my other blush palette, this is the ABH blush kit. This one is in the name of the kit, the palette is called Radiant. I think this might be limited edition, I feel like. So that's what this one looks like. I used to use these two shades mixed over here, or sometimes I would just use this shade by itself. But again, I remember getting this because it's a palette that I'm getting like different options with. This one is, you know, obviously more higher end, so it costs more than that e.l.f. palette. But I think this is one of those products that I just bought just to try it out. So I feel like at minimum, those would be the blushes in my collection. And now moving on to highlighter, y'all know how I feel about a highlighter, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about all of these highlighters, but I have to be realistic here. I feel like I would have a bunch of highlighters, but I'm just going to talk about what I think I have 5 here. So the first one is the Fenty. This is one of the match sticks in the shade Cinnamon. So again, I think I would have purchased this because it would have been one of those like YouTube made me buy it product, just because Fenty comes out with stuff all the time. And again, I feel like just through watching YouTube videos, I would have just gotten excited about this. I bought this though, I feel like I bought this before I started my channel. Yeah, because this was one of the first products that Fenty came out with. So I feel like I bought this and another highlighter that I'm going to talk about even before I started my channel. But I bought this particular one because of the shade. Now this one is a little dark for me, but for me it's like a really nice everyday, like a subtle type of highlighter. So I feel like I would definitely still own this. However, I don't know how often I would use this. I'm actually not a fan of how this applies. I feel like it kind of pulls on the skin, but I do think it's a really pretty color. But let me show you very quickly 2 other Fenty highlighters that I think I would have definitely bought. So this is one of the Kilowatt highlighters. This one is in Ginger Binge and Moscow Mule. So these colors, they're not like everyday colors, but I bought them because they're so different and they're so unique. I feel like I might have used this as a cheek highlighter like no more than 3 times, but I have used it on my eyes here and there. It's just really pretty. I mean, I bought it just because it's so pretty, and I think this is the other highlighter that I bought even before I started my YouTube channel. And then my other Kilowatt highlighter, this is Sandcastle and Mint Mojito. This actually ended up being one of my everyday type highlighters. I actually have it on today too. I wear this a lot, especially this brown shade. I don't wear the blue one quite as much, but the brown one I wear all the time. This one I didn't buy until, it didn't come out until after I started my channel, but I feel like I would have bought it anyway. And then very quickly, I have 2 L'Oreal highlighters that I think I still would have bought just because I think they look pretty. So the first one is, well actually they're the same thing. These are the Lumi highlighters, but this is the powder version and this is the liquid version. So let me show you with the powder version. I just like the way it looks. It just looks really pretty, like different hues of rose gold. And I'm gonna very quickly swatch this liquid highlighter for you. And that's the liquid highlighter. So that I used to use on my cheek from time to time, and the liquid highlighter is also a good one to mix in with some foundations. So I think I would have bought this. I think I would have bought this just because I like the way it looks, and I feel like I would have bought this just because I like this. I don't know. I also have a couple of Maybelline highlighters. So this is their Master Chrome highlighter in the shade Rose Gold. It's kind of dirty, but this one is in the shade Rose Gold. I love Rose Gold highlighters, so I feel like I would have seen this in the store and I would have grabbed it up. And I think at some point after they came out with maybe like 3 of their original colors, they extended the line. And this one is the Master Chrome highlighter in Molten Peach. So this is another pretty one. Both of these I feel like I would have bought it just because I really like highlighter. But again, being realistic, I think I would have had even more than that. But I think these are the ones that I definitely would still have, like even if I had never started my channel. So in case you don't already know, I do not wear false lashes. So because of that, I have like a crap load of mascara. So it was really hard for me to pick the mascaras that I think I would still own. But I think at minimum, I would still have 2 in my collection. So the first one is the Maybelline Colossal Big Shot Mascara. I feel like I would definitely still own and still use this one. I feel like this might be my go-to one if I had never started YouTube. And also, I can't remember exactly how I learned about this mascara. This is the Lancome Monsieur Big Mascara. I may have also gotten this as the birthday gift from Ulta one month. I just really can't remember like exactly how I stumbled across this, but I do remember when I tried it out, I really liked it. So like I said, it's hard for me to narrow down all of the mascaras that I think that I would have because I have tried so many like over the years, but I feel like I would definitely have these 2 in my collection still. So these are the only 2 that I'm going to touch on today. And then for my eyeliner, I already know that it would have been the NYX Matte Liquid Liner. Now I do have another liner that I use now. However, I can't guarantee that I would have come across that other liner if I had never started YouTube, but I feel like this one I would have tried out just because it's in the drugstore, it's accessible, it's cheap, and it's good. So I feel like I would have bought it for that reason, and I would have just kept using it just because it's a cheap option that really works. And then lastly, for lipsticks, so this is another category where I feel like I would just have so many lipsticks even if I had never started a channel. So I'm only going to talk about 3 products that I know for sure that I would have even if I had never started YouTube. So the first one is one of the Wet n Wild, I think they're called the Megalicious Matte Lipsticks, and this one is in the shade Mocha-licious. So if you're not familiar with this lipstick, this to me is just like the perfect nude lipstick for me. So that is what it looks like there, and to me this is just like a very perfect like everyday nude color for me. I was so happy when I came across this lipstick because I felt like I found like the perfect nude lipstick for me. Wet n Wild lipsticks are really cheap. I think they're like less than $3. So I know I would have been buying this over and over again because it goes with every single eye look that you can think of, every single shirt color you can think of. It just goes with everything and it's so cheap. Another favorite of mine is Maybelline. Now I think I just mentioned a little while ago that I love Maybelline for their lipsticks. They just have so much to choose from. It's like an endless possibility with them when it comes to lipsticks, but my favorite hands down is the Maybelline matte lipstick and brown blush. So that's what this one looks like, and I feel like this is kind of close. Yeah, I'm getting kind of close to the end of this one, so I'm gonna swatch this one for y'all too. So this one over here is the Maybelline lipstick, and then there's the Wet n Wild lipstick. So you see how similar they are in color. They actually kind of look exactly the same. The Maybelline lipstick to me is just a little bit better quality than the Wet n Wild one, but I feel like I would definitely have like a ton of Maybelline lipsticks in my collection. It's just kind of hard to decide like which ones I would have decided to buy, but this one for sure, this one caught my eye and it's one of my favorite like all-time lipsticks. And the last one is my Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb. So this is the original one. As you can see, I'm like almost finished with this one. I bought this before I started my YouTube channel when Fenty first launched. This was one of their first products, so I was so excited about this, as was everybody, but I'm pretty sure that off of the strength of this I would have purchased a few other shades. I think I have 4. I have 4 of these lip glosses, so I feel like I would have purchased more just because I like this one so much. So again, probably I would have had a lot more lipsticks than what I just showed you, but I feel like these are the ones that I would definitely have in my collection. Okay, I'm curious to see how long this video is going to be when I edit it, because I feel like I went over a whole lot of stuff, but that is all of the stuff that I think that I would still own and stuff that I think that I would still be using here and there even if I had never started a makeup channel here on YouTube. So I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you guys have a YouTube channel and you end up doing this video, please let me know so I can come and watch yours. Let me know what you thought about my video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. I hope that y'all will consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed to the channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers and I'm almost there, so I would really appreciate it if you would join my channel, and I hope to see y'all back here for my next video. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.